The 2025 car market is officially over. So on May 28th, the president's reciprocal tariffs were put on hold as the United States Court of International Trade ruled that the Emergency Economic Powers Act doesn't grant him the power to invoke tariffs on nearly every country in the world. However, one day later, the Federal Appeals Court overturned this ruling, meaning tariffs will be reinstated at the time of this video's recording. This situation is still developing, and even then, a lot of countries have already reacted in some way to the US's tariffs. So a lot of companies probably won't change their prices anytime soon until the tariffs just straight up go away. Regardless of whatever ruling prevails, the auto tariff is completely valid and will remain in effect. Even if the International Trade Court rules the other tariffs as invalid, auto tariffs will still continue, the reason being the United States already has an existing tariff regarding automobiles from 1964 that is still active, known as the chicken tax, where it heavily taxes light trucks from other countries. So what does this mean for you and me? Well, it means that tariffs for cars will continue unless the president himself overturns them. As of June 2nd, most automakers have ended their grace period for non-tariff priced vehicles, meaning that from here on out, car prices will instantly surge 10 to 25% overnight across the board. So buckle up, because this video is going to be bumpy.
But today, the president's auto tariffs kick in.
Hyundai may be getting ready to hike prices to help offset higher costs from President Donald Trump's tariffs. Subaru and Ford are just a few automakers that recently announced price increases.
Many automakers have already ended their tariff grace period, and car prices have already substantially increased all across the board. We can see the rapid effect of tariffs this year as the average auto transaction price in 2025 went from being on its way down for the third year in a row from its peak stupidity in 2022, only to blow right past the former peak of stupidity thanks to the tariff situation. Yes, I'm not joking. We have officially passed numbers worse than the 2022 clout era and the 2021-2020 chip shortage quarantine period of car buying, with Cars.com and Cars Edge publishing statistics showing that the new average transaction price is approaching $50,000. We were so close to healing. 2025 started off so amazingly compared to the past 3 years, but in just 3 short months, it undid 3 long years of trying to close this automotive wound. There is a very small, and I truly mean a very small, flickering light at the end of this tunnel, as certain automakers like Volkswagen have stated that for the rest of June they will continue to sell at normal prices, and honestly that company does need a PRW considering Dieselgate from last decade. So if you really do need a new car, you might want to look into it being a Volkswagen. Take a look at the cute little minibus that they made, super nice. Their prices are unchanged for the remainder of this month. Regarding anything else, we are now at the tariff kicking in part, which now means we move into the second phase of my advice, which is to just no longer buy cars. If you have a car, or you have a family member as a car, or you have someone you can share a car with, try to go without buying a car, honestly, for the remainder of this year. Otherwise, if you still need to buy a car, new or used, be fully aware that the prices are now drastically affected and may continue to get worse. So this may not even be the peak for 2025, because summer just started, it's not over, and summer usually makes prices go up. Used cars, by the way, have been severely affected. Hate to say this, I told y'all. Look, I don't miss. If you're someone who's been subscribed to me and following me along the way for videos regarding this topic, so when I predicted that used car prices would surge alongside tariffs, that wasn't just me making that assumption out of my butt. Used car prices are now factually also breaking record highs. Again, Cars.com and Cars Edge showing statistics of used car prices now blowing past $30,000 as the average, by the way, meaning several of them are more, a few of them may be under, and compared to the peak in 2022, but you have to understand the average non-car enthusiast commuter, which makes up 95% of car buyers, is not ready to deal with the financial and maintenance headache that most 15-plus-year-old cars are going to create. Yes, even the mighty reliable Honda might not be a good reliable A to B device after 15-plus years, and this is heavily dependent on area. If you get a 15-year-old Honda in the Midwest with 2 owners and 100K mileage, as long as it doesn't have rust, it might run all peachy. But here in Atlanta, oh, not even super duper Honda reliability can stand up to the clapped out mess that 6 owners are going to subject it to over 300,000 miles over the course of 15 years. So while both of these cars are 15-year-old Hondas that probably cost the same, they are drastically different conditions. And that's the reality of car buying. Just like with real estate, location, location, location. Go over state borders if you have to get a better dealer. In this economy, it is 100% worth it to go 200 miles even to get a car that's several thousand cheaper, or it's just in better condition. So even if it is the same exact price, if it only has like 1 or 2 owners and half the mileage of a car local to you, buy that one, okay? It will definitely be way easier to maintain and deal with, all right? So if you really must buy a car right now, circling back to the topic, auto tariffs have irreparably affected both new and used car prices drastically, like I just showed. At the end of the day, there's probably some people watching this video who freshly graduated college. Like you probably just finished your last semester. May already ended. It's now going to be June. You're about to walk across the stage. What was a happy celebration for people, 10, 20 years ago is now one of the most stressful moments of your life as you realize you're about to get thrown into a very, very scary world. All right. My recommendation is you should definitely understand negotiation, look up negotiation tactics, understand what numbers actually mean in the 4-square method. Never hyperfixate on any one number at any given time. If you feel like you're being ripped off by a bad dealership, take those papers with you, leave out the door, and try again with another dealership. Using the former papers as a guideline, just bring them with you to the other dealer because they're competitive. They like to beat the numbers because they want to get the sale from you instead of the other. Unlike the clout period where negotiation didn't really work, there are still a lot of cars that are rotting on dealerships right now. Funnily enough, inventory is still pretty high despite these high prices, meaning that may just be smoke and mirrors. There might still be a decent negotiation window. It's still going to be pretty tight. You're probably not going to shave off, 5,000. You might unfortunately not even get under MSRP, but if you can even shave off a couple thousand, that will be worth spending a couple more hours going to another dealer. Another number I'll talk about very briefly because I'd rather you watch my used car video is interest. I have to mention this because I always get smug comments, and in that video I wasn't getting as many smug comments when I showed the example because a lot of people realized that they actually weren't as smug as they thought they were. So if you're someone who bought a 11-year-old used Honda Pilot that was listed for 18 grand, you probably think you're way more responsible than someone who's buying a brand new 2025 post-tariff Honda Civic. However, if you get really bad interest, you may actually end up paying basically the same amount of money. So hopefully that got some people's attention. I'll show the same clip I showed in that video to prove my point.
Interest rate right now is 26% and it's on a 54-month loan. And honestly, I made a deal with the devil.
Calling a customer on a 2014 Honda CRV he bought for $18,000.
20% interest is so bad that even if you think you've just got a great used car deal, it will literally just invalidate all the hard work you've done. That's what I mean by in the 4-square method, don't just focus on monthly payments. Look at all of these numbers, download into your brain. I know you just studied for college. I know you're probably fried from the end of the semester, but college students, especially fresh graduates, are the biggest meme for car dealerships for 10 years now. It's a well-known fact for over a decade that they love to scam you guys. You were some of their favorite customers to scam. They prey off of your desperation, so to speak. And this time more than ever, you are more desperate. And remember, they are never your friend. As someone who works in the automotive industry, I hate car dealerships. I will say that unapologetically. They are stealerships. They're the final boss battle for every car guy and now even non-car guys. They're the final thing getting in the way of trying to live a more, because cars are the second biggest purchase in your life, right? Right behind a house usually. And these days, I don't even know if most of Gen Z will ever get an opportunity to own a house anytime soon, so it's going to statistically be the largest purchase in your price as of this moment. Please research, okay? Just buy in full, idiots. Look at how much smarter we are. How come you guys aren't doing this? Look how big brain I am for figuring this out. It's not that you figured something out Gen Z doesn't know. Look, a lot of Gen Z knows that buying in full is an option. It's just that they can't. These are people that are struggling to pay their rent, struggling to buy their food, crying at night over their student loan debts. So telling them to just buy in full and pointing at your forehead over it doesn't make you magically smarter than them. Because obviously for these 44-year-old millennials who bought a car in full, it was probably a $500 Crown Victoria for you because that was an option you guys had. And that's no longer really a phenomenon that exists for the majority of Gen Z. Most of young Gen Z would consider themselves lucky if their grandparents pass away and they therefore inherit their car. I unfortunately actually know a shocking amount of peers who only have a car because of that very method. Very morbid method, but at least their grandparents gave them something behind in this world, and at least they're still appreciating it by driving it. But I understand that for people who either don't have grandparents that are in their life, or maybe don't have supportive parents, or you're born from a lower income household, you may have no one to give you a car for you to inherit. That's who I'm making these videos for. They cannot whip out 30 grand from nowhere to buy the average used car price. Gotta really exaggerate that this video. That's how awful we're headed towards. I'm so sorry that this is bad news for this month. This doesn't make me happy either. This is why small cars like the Slate truck can't come soon enough, because I'm sick and tired of just whatever. Okay, that's a rant for another time. Look, 2025 got a lot harder for a lot of people. Like I said, when they just graduated and they're like, crap, I just now need to buy a car, and now the tariff prices are kicking in. That's why I have to tell them, look, learn negotiation, learn interest rates, learn everything. Because if you're going to have to take a loan because you can't summon forth 10, 15, 20, or 30 grand to buy the average used car price, but you need one to get to work because of the car-centric infrastructure, that's why I still have to give them the advice. That's why buying in full isn't really a sound suggestion to them. If you can buy in full, obviously do it. So I never liked the whole "it worked for me, therefore it has to work for you" type mentality. I used to subscribe to that horrible philosophy. Thankfully, I matured and realized the world is constantly evolving and people's lives are constantly changing. Literally, my only skill was having a slightly higher luck stat and being born a few years earlier than the rest of Gen Z. Therefore, I got a glimpse of what a normal economy was and was able to buy a couple of cars that I really liked before that economy just got ripped away from me, alright? But I have to have sympathy for people who never even got a glimpse. They're just thrown into the horrible post-quarantine market. So to be a little bit hopeful, let's talk about alternatives. Let's say you really do need a way to get around, but you just cannot stomach spending upwards of 30 grand to get a used car. Remember, that's the average price. May potentially come with super bad interest rates. Depending on how many student loans you took, your credit score may be horrible, meaning that no matter how hard you try to negotiate, you may still get a horrible interest rate. If you have a really bad credit score because you just took a lot of loans out from university, have your parent be a cosigner. If you unfortunately don't have a loved one who can cosign with you, then you may want to listen for some of these alternatives I'm about to talk about. Every urbanist talks about trains, trams, bicycles, and so on and so forth, and while these are amazing alternatives to cars, the reality is we cannot snap a finger and make billions of dollars worth of infrastructure appear tomorrow morning to get to work. Even if we collectively united and voted in unison to start funding trains and therefore get America caught up to the rest of the world in terms of walkability, it's minimum gonna take 20 years for the US to catch up. By the way, not saying that we shouldn't support those movements. You should try to participate locally in your community to make sure that your community becomes more walkable, but it's not something that just happens right now. But there are people right now who graduated or came from trade school or whatever, who are in their 20s right now, who need to get to work right now, and they can't wait for 20 years of legislation to potentially change infrastructure, because who knows, America may still be terminally car-brained 20 years from now. So they're not gonna just twiddle their thumbs and wait. They have to get to work with or without a car somehow. E-bikes, motorbikes, mopeds, and scooters. These are all great personal transport alternatives that function on US roads, because again, I don't expect people to bicycle 3 hours to work every single day. I know some cyclists are super passionate and are willing to do that. I do not expect the average American to do that. If you're Gen Z, single, young, you don't have kids to worry about anytime soon, these are especially good personal transport alternatives. You can save money for the next 5 to 10 years riding around until you finally settle down, find sweetheart, get a car. Heaven forbid it better not be an SUV. Dear God, please tell me the SUV trend will die down at least even just a bit 10 years from now. Anyways, that's going to be it for this video. Like this video if it helped you out, and share it with your parents to let them know that you need a co-signer in these troublesome times. It's going to be a rough few years, and I graciously thank all new subscribers and current subscribers for supporting my channel with my new content direction. So subscribe for more weekly situations updates, and I'll see y'all next time. Blade Angel out.